If you're over 60, that 120 over 80 your doctor keeps repeating, forget it. The number that actually predicts your heart attack and stroke risk is your top number, systolic, and it should be under 130, not 120 over 80. That's the real target right now in the first 30 seconds. Here's why that old number was never built for you, and there's a second number even more important than this one coming up shortly. That 120 over 80 came from studies on younger and middle-aged adults. Your arteries have stiffened with age, they've lost their give, so a textbook normal reading can hide a very different story inside an older body. Think of a young artery like a flexible garden hose. It expands and relaxes with every heartbeat. An older artery is more like a stiff pipe. It can't absorb that same pressure wave. So the numbers on the cuff start to mean something different than they did at 40. And here's something most people never hear. Pushing your pressure too low can be just as dangerous as leaving it too high. Dizziness, falls, broken hips, even stroke. The treatment meant to protect you can, aimed at the wrong target, become the thing that hurts you. So the top number under 130 is your real anchor, not the old 120 over 80 rule. But there's a second number hiding on that same monitor that matters even more, and almost nobody over 60 has ever been told about it. That's next. Here it is. Take your top number, subtract your bottom number. That's called your pulse pressure. And the Framingham Heart Study, one of the longest and most respected studies in medical history, found that in adults over 50, every 10 points that gap widens raises heart disease risk by roughly 20%. So a reading of 130 over 60 might get a reassuring nod at your checkup, but that gap of 70 is a real warning sign your doctor may not flag in a rushed visit. The number to aim for. Keep that gap under 60 where you can. Most people never even calculate it because nobody hands them the subtraction. Why does that gap matter so much? Because it's a direct readout of how stiff your arteries have become. A young, flexible artery smooths out the pressure wave between heartbeats, so the top and bottom numbers stay close together. A stiff artery can't do that anymore. So the gap widens, and that widening gap is quietly telling you your arteries are working harder than they should. That's why researchers now treat pulse pressure as one of the strongest predictors of cardiovascular risk in people over 50, sometimes stronger than either number alone. Here's a simple way to picture it. Two people can both walk into a clinic with a top number of 150. One has a bottom number of 95, a gap of 55. The other has a bottom number of 70, a gap of 80. On paper, the first glance at the top number makes them look identical, but the second person's arteries are working much harder to smooth out that pressure wave. And that's exactly the kind of hidden risk a rushed appointment can miss completely. Now, knowing that gap still isn't the whole picture because there's a number even more dangerous than a high one, and it's the one reading your doctor's office almost never checks. Stick with me because this next part is the one that actually sends people to the emergency room. Before we get there, let's finish the basics so you have the full picture. The top number, systolic, is the pressure when your heart pumps. The bottom, diastolic, is the pressure between beats while your heart rests. After 60, researchers spend far less time worrying about the bottom number. It's the top number and the gap between the two that carry almost all of the predictive power for heart attack and stroke. So if you remember nothing else from this section, remember this: top number under 130, gap under 60. Those are your two numbers to actually watch. So what should your target really be? For most people over 60 with healthy kidneys and a healthy heart, under 130 systolic is where you want to land. But if you're living with diabetes or kidney disease, your target shifts, sometimes higher, sometimes tighter. It is not one magic number stamped on a poster. It's a range built for your specific body, your specific history, your specific risk. If nobody has ever walked you through that distinction before, you're not alone, and you're not crazy. You were taught a slogan, not a strategy. A number on a poster is easy to repeat. A range built around your kidneys, your heart, and your history takes an actual conversation, and most 15-minute appointments simply don't have room for it. But I have to be straight with you because I promised you real answers as we go. The most dangerous number I'm going to show you hasn't come up yet. It's the reason seniors end up in the emergency room with a perfectly normal-looking blood pressure reading. It's not what you'd expect. The most dangerous blood pressure reading after 60 isn't the one that's too high. It's the one that drops too suddenly. And here's the fix for it, right at the start of this part, not buried at the end. It's called orthostatic hypotension. Your pressure crashes the moment you stand up. 1 second you're fine on the couch, the next the room tilts, your vision narrows, and you're reaching for the wall. It's one of the leading causes of falls and fainting in older adults. And a fall at 65 or 75 is not a minor inconvenience. It can mean a broken hip, a hospital stay, and a recovery that changes the rest of your life. So here's the fix right now. Don't just check your pressure sitting down. Check it standing up too, about 1 minute after you rise. If it drops more than 20 points systolic, that's the sign to bring straight to your doctor, not something to wait out. Why does this happen? Often it's caused by blood pressure medication being adjusted without anyone ever checking what happens the moment you stand up. A seated reading at the office says you look fine. You go home, stand up from the couch, and your pressure nosedives. That's how a healthy-seeming person ends up on the floor, confused about how it happened. One reading is not enough. Your pressure moves all day, and standing changes it in ways a single seated number can never capture. There's a second, quieter version of this worth knowing too. It's sometimes called postprandial hypotension, a pressure drop after a large meal, especially common in older adults. If you've ever felt unusually lightheaded after a big lunch or dinner, that's worth mentioning to your doctor alongside your standing readings because it points to the same underlying issue, your blood pressure regulation not adjusting as quickly as it used to. So how do you actually catch all three of these, the top number, the pulse pressure gap, and the standing drop, without waiting for a fall to find out? Here's the answer, and it's almost embarrassingly simple. Measure at home, at the same time every single day, seated, both feet flat on the floor, arm resting at heart level. Not right after coffee, not after a big meal, not when you're stressed or out of breath. Take 2 readings a minute apart, average them, and write them down. Then, once a week, add a standing reading taken about a minute after you get up. 5 minutes a day. That's the entire cost. Bring that log to your next appointment. A patient who walks in with weeks of home readings, sitting and standing, is far easier to treat correctly than one with a single in-office number taken after rushing through traffic. That log turns 3 separate numbers, your systolic target, your pulse pressure gap, and your standing response, into one clear pattern your doctor can actually act on, instead of guessing from a single snapshot. Now here's the nuance that makes all of this personal instead of generic. That under 130 systolic target isn't universal. If you're living with diabetes or kidney disease, your target shifts, sometimes higher, sometimes tighter, and your doctor needs your actual pattern to set it correctly. It's not one number on a poster, it's a range built for your specific body and history. And that's exactly why the home log matters more than any single office visit ever could. It's the only way you and your doctor see your real pattern, instead of guessing from one reading, once, under stress, in traffic. So here's everything in one place. Keep your systolic number under 130 unless your doctor's given you a different personal target. Watch your pulse pressure, top minus bottom, and try to keep that gap under 60. Check your pressure both sitting and standing, because a sudden drop on standing is often more dangerous than a high-seated number. And build the 5-minute daily log, sitting every day, standing once a week, because that's what turns 3 separate numbers into one clear picture. None of this means ignore your numbers or stop your medication. It means the opposite. The target that worked at 40 was never the whole story at 65. And now you know exactly which numbers to track instead of just the one your doctor has repeated your entire adult life. Your heart's been working for 6, 7, maybe 8 decades without you ever asking it to. It's earned better than a number lifted from a chart built for someone half your age. If this is the first time anyone's explained your blood pressure like this, hit subscribe. I'm building an entire library of the health truths adults over 50 are never taught in a rushed appointment. And the next one is even more urgent than this one. Turn on the bell too, because the algorithm won't guarantee you see it. Subscribing is the only way that's certain. Before you go, tell me in the comments, what was your last reading, and were you sitting or standing when they took it? I read everyone, and your answer might be exactly the thing someone else needed to see today.